Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Uh, Thursday, December 4th. I can't believe we're the holidays are just around the corner. Everybody is busy thinking about the new year. Let's just wait a minute or so and let a few people filter into the webinar, into the waiting room. I'll let them in. Okay. I think we've got everybody here. So just a couple of housekeeping things before we get started. I'm Kristen Straight, CEO and President of Synergy HR and the founder of frankhr.io. So thank you for joining us in this webinar on strategy. This is our fourth webinar this year, and we developed this series specifically to support our referral partners. If you know anybody out there that would benefit from watching this video, please feel free to share it once the recording comes out. And just a couple of things. So this this webinar is being recorded. Everybody's camera is going to stay off and everything is on mute. But if you have questions, feel free to use the chat and pop your question in the chat. I don't have a technology expert online helping me out today. Normally I would have a colleague here, but I will be checking the chat at the end of the webinar, and then we can have a Q&A discussion period. And this webinar should take about, I'm going to say between 30 and 40 minutes tops. Got a lot of information to crunch through. It's pretty high level. And so I think you're going to come away with some questions, and I'm hoping to have time at the end for that. So with no further ado, let's get started. So I always start these webinars by talking a little bit about us and who we are at Synergy and what our superpowers are. So we are a team of senior HR professionals dedicated to helping businesses and organizations build their best workplaces. So we focus heavily on HR strategy, but we have a business that covers that whole paradigm, right? From the transactional day-to-day stuff to the really hard annual strategy, employee relations issues. So we specialize in fractional HR solutions, and I'll talk about that in a second. We have about 150 years plus experience on our team, and we're very collaborative. So when issues come up, we turn back to our team and share knowledge, experience, and information on a regular basis. So it's a pretty cool unit that we have for supporting our clients. Fractional HR solutions are unique in that, from our perspective, they're a little bit different than outsourced solutions because we partner deeply with our clients. So we're not just doing work on the side in a closet. We are actually showing up at our client spaces, being part of the team, and interacting with the leadership team to make sure that they have the competency, the capacity to build a great workplace. So the nice thing about a fractional HR solution is that you get access to the entire Synergy team for as needed for a fraction of the price of a full-time in-house team or an individual person. Some of the other things that we do outside of the fractional solutions is that we also do recruitment branding, investigations, employee relations issues, conflict management. One of the things we do a lot of this time of year is we help companies with workforce planning, compensation analysis, and we also facilitate and support strategic planning and HR strategy development. So we have very modern, very accessible, very business-focused HR solutions, and we embed ourselves as a partner so we know your business well, and for that reason, we're able to drive real results from our strategic planning engagements. Over the past few years, many of you know if you've been on previous webinars, is that back in January 2023, we had a pivot. We could see the industry shifting and changing. We know that AI is a big part of everybody's life right now, and it's really important for us to lean into that and start using technology in a way that elevates our practice. So we developed a software solution for small businesses called Frank HR. You can find it at www.frankhr.io. And Frank is an employee management system. It's ready for you to use today. It's MVP state. We're currently moving it onto a custom headless coding platform. And this tool is exciting and is well on its way to becoming a celebrity in the small business world. It's known for its simplicity. It is designed for people who aren't HR pros. So a lot of small businesses under 30 use some sort of administrative assistant, or the CEO is hands-on HR. And what Frank HR does is it basically um, acts like an HR assistant for you from a technology platform. We're integrating an AI chatbot into it, so you'll be able to go on to Frank HR and ask very complex questions. But on the system, you also have full access to the Synergy team when you need to address those human nuances. So it's a simple technology that does the doing and the thinking for you. And I'm really excited about it. So if anybody's interested in hearing more about it, just let me know after the session today. I'd be happy to get on a call and show it to you. So let's get started. Today, we want to talk strategy. So strategy provides a roadmap for achieving your vision. It helps align resources, it enables proactive decision making, it helps you avoid costly mistakes, and ensures that the investment that you are making is driving success in your business. The whole point of this conversation is to get you thinking about how important strategy is in your business, and to think about those important elements, particularly on the people side, that need to be in place for your strategy to make sense. Before we get started, I want to tell you a little bit. I love this slide. This is my favorite slide. So strategy creates clarity inside your business. And what we know is clarity just drives execution, and execution helps build great companies. So most companies work very, very hard, but very few companies work aligned. And strategy fixes that. It is the roadmap and the focused energy. It helps you focus energy where it matters most. So today, what we're going to focus on learning is first of all, what strategy is. Like, what is it really? We're going to talk about why strategy matters. We're going to look at the essential elements of a great strategy. And remember, I said early on that this is fairly high level. So I'm not going to run you through a full strategy exercise. That would probably take a full day. We're also going to talk about building strategy that aligns with your purpose, vision, and values, and how important that is. We're going to talk about who's accountable, who owns what, how strategy flows through your teams, and talk about integrating HR and people strategy into your overall business strategy. We're also going to touch very briefly at the end of the presentation on tools you can use and actions you can take tomorrow that will help you build a really great strategy. Okay, so let's get started. Strategy is a plan to create value in your organization by looking forward, so it's very future focused, and considering how to best use resources to achieve your long-term desired outcomes while involving difficult trade-offs about what to do and what not to do. So, I love to chase shiny things. And so I have great people around me that go, hey, Kristen, stop chasing that shiny thing. It's not aligned with our strategy. So it really helps to keep me on track, and it helps my team keep me on track, oddly enough. So I want to talk a little bit about strategy versus goals versus tactics. A lot of organizations confuse these, and strategy, let me just slip to the next slide here. So strategy is the focus on your long-term vision. So it's where you want to be in 3, 5, or 10 years. And you can get the best thing to do is sit down on a Friday night, pardon me, just kind of have a little bit of a cough here, with a glass of wine, grab a napkin, and visualize a picture of your organization 3 to 5 years out. What would it look like? How would people show up for work? What sort of KPIs are you chasing? Goals, on the other hand, are the measurable outcomes that you tie to your strategy. So, for instance, if I go, I want to be the leading fractional HR provider in Western Canada, the question I have to ask myself is how many clients do I have? What's the average revenue per client? What is the total revenue for the organization? How much of that revenue comes from recruitment and how much comes from HR services? So those are great goals, great KPIs. So we typically use a SMART model, so specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely to help write goals. So here's a really good example. Here's a great goal. I want to increase online sales revenue by 15% in the fourth quarter by implementing email automations and a 10% discount for abandoned carts. And I'm going to compare that to quarter three sales that are at $100,000. Okay, so a 15% increase on $100,000. It's a very well quantified goal and it meets all of those requirements. It's specific, it's measurable, it's achievable, it's relevant, and it's time bound, which means that I have a specific time period in which to execute this. That's a great goal. So tactics are completely different. And so we typically call these tasks. These are tasks or actions your team will take related to the SMART goal that I just spoke of that might that will help you achieve the goal that ultimately helps you achieve your strategy. So a really great tactic or task might be to send out 500 emails on Tuesday or add a discount code to the system on Wednesday. Let's not get these three things mixed up, strategies, goals, and tactics. Today, we are focusing on strategy. The goals and tactics are the how you translate your strategy into the doing and the day-to-day activities. And we do a lot of work with companies to help them sort of operationalize their strategy. So it's really getting down to the brass tacks of what do you need to do, how are you going to measure success, and is it valuable for your business at the end of the day? So it's really important to note that even though we're only going to talk about strategy today, you need strategy to develop goals. So the goals are going to get you to achieve your strategy, and then goals relate into tactics, and conversely, your tactics help you achieve your goals, and achieving your goals helps you achieve your strategy. So these are all interrelated. So why does strategy matter? So teams don't struggle because they don't work hard. They struggle because they're not aligned. So strategy solves that alignment issue. It focuses effort, reduces noise, speeds up decisions, and ensures everybody is rowing in the same direction. A strong strategy accelerates decision making, it reduces rework, prevents silos, and increases engagement. People want clarity. We know that. They want to know what matters and what success looks like in the business. Let's go through the essential elements of a great strategy. So what we know is that strategy needs to sit on a really solid foundation that doesn't move, okay? So I consider this foundation your purpose, your vision, and your values. 10 years ago, we used to talk about mission, vision, and values. And what I was finding is a lot of companies were getting mixed up between what a mission was and what a vision is. In my world, the way I look at it, vision is where you're going. It's the bullseye on the dartboard that you're trying to hit. Okay. So the vision is your 3 to 5 year strategy. Where are we going to be? Your purpose statement defines who you are and why you exist on this planet as an organization. So at Synergy, our purpose is to help build great workplaces. So a really solid purpose defines why you exist. The vision is where you are going. And the values are the guardrails that sort of keep you on the pathway to achieving your vision. This framework, purpose, vision, values, creates a really good, solid foundation for helping you make decisions, and it keeps strategy aligned and consistent. The second essential element is a clear current state assessment. So many of you have heard of a SWOT analysis. So strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And strengths and weaknesses are usually assessment of your organizational state, and opportunities and threats are really an assessment of the external environment, the economy, and your competitors. So this is a good SWOT analysis would be part of this current state assessment. What we know is that before you build the plan, the strategy, you have to face the hard facts. You have to ask yourself what's happening in your market? What's your financial reality? What do your customers need? Do you have the team that you need? Where are the risks? Is this the same? This is the same approach we use in strategic planning for organizational right sizing. So when we are looking, for many of you that attended our previous webinar on right sizing, we actually see this as an annual strategic exercise where you look at your organization and ask yourself some really critical questions about, people and bodies and competencies and roles. So do a SWOT analysis, look at market conditions, look at your financial health, look at your customers, look at your team capability, look at your culture, look at your risks, and ask yourself, what does it look like in the future, 3 to 5 years? How will technology impact your business over the next 12 months, 3 years, 5 years? And what are the trends? So one really interesting trend that we're seeing in HR is a lot of people are using AI or ChatGPT to do some of the more transactional things, which is a little bit scary for us, but also we're going to embrace it and move forward and be supporters of that at the end of the day. So the next thing you need to do is you really need to come up with a bridge between vision and execution, and clarify and define 3 to 5 really tight strategic priorities. So your clarity of your destination drives alignment. So there's many scaling models, the Rockefeller habits, EOS, scaling up, and they use a simple model. One, they create a 3-year vision, 3 to 5 years. It used to be 10 years, and 10's just too far out. There's too much change. So I like a 3-year vision, create a 3-year picture, create 1-year goals with 3 to 5 annual priorities max. Don't muddy the waters by trying to focus on too much. And then we set 90-day priorities, goals or tasks. Some of the systems, so EOS calls those rocks, and these are the things you need to do in the short term to help you achieve your annual goals. But in terms of setting strategy, define 3 to 5 critical priorities for the year. The fourth is measure. What gets measured gets managed. This is where clarity becomes powerful. Every leader and every role needs 3 to 5 KPIs. I like using the top 3 rule, so I try to keep it to 3, just so that it's super clear and that I'm chasing the things that really, really matter. Every leader needs a scorecard. Scorecards create transparency, accountability, and alignment. And people must know, your people, your entire team must know what a good day looks like in terms of metrics. I love dashboards. I saw a really cool dashboard a couple weeks ago. A client built this fantastic dashboard using Power BI. And so there's lots of tools out there, AI tools that you can use to help build dashboards. If you don't have a dashboard, you can actually hire somebody off of Upworks or Fiverr to build you one that integrates right with your financial systems. You need to use data to measure progress, and you need to use data to hold people accountable for achieving these metrics and these KPIs and scorecards that you set. And when they aren't achieving these goals, you need to get curious and pivot quickly. This isn't about disciplining people. This is about making sure that your company and your people are all moving in the same direction. Okay, so the fifth thing is create accountability and structure. Clearly identify who owns what. There should be no comments like, that's not my job. Strategy is not HR's job. The CEO owns the direction and the vision of the company. Leaders translate the strategy into departmental actions. Teams execute the work. HR ensures that people systems support the plan. They help build capacity and mitigate risk. But everyone owns living the values. So be super clear about who owns what. Okay, so the sixth element is create rhythm. This is really important. And I'm like everybody else. I hate a boring meeting. I hate meetings for meeting's sake. I like intentional, purposeful meeting. So strategy dies when it gets stuck at the leadership level. You need a really good rhythm, a meeting rhythm, weekly, monthly, quarterly, so that strategy can cascade down on an operational basis. If frontline people can't tell you the priorities, the plan isn't alive. And it's your job, if you're a leader in the organization, to ensure that people's work every day is progressing the company towards achieving the vision of the organization and the strategic plan for the year. There is an intersection of strategy and people. The truth is, leaders drive strategy, the rest of the team executes. So it's important to have all the right people on the right bus and in the right seats to be effective. You can't separate your people strategy from your business strategy. If your structure, talent, culture, leadership capability, or compensation practices aren't aligned, your strategy will not execute. This is why your HR team plays a strategic enabling role. They help build that infrastructure that enables leaders to drive strategy on an operational basis. Let's talk about this a little bit more, the essential elements of a great people strategy. So at Synergy, we promote what we like to call a competency-based model of HR management. I call it our special algorithm for those of you that have attended other sessions. We've got this secret potion to creating success inside of organization. And what we basically talk about is if you have a really good foundation, a really solid purpose statement, a really solid vision of a 3-year vision of the future, and you've got really embedded values, what you then need to build is what we call core competencies in HR. So these are the behaviors, skills, and attributes that will drive success towards achieving your long-term vision. So defining these behaviors, skills, and attributes, these competencies that are the ingredients for successfully achieving your vision is critical to ensuring that you are attracting, rewarding, recognizing, and retaining talent that is going to help you move in the right direction. HR's job is to translate the strategy into systems that do just that. Attract, reward, recognize, and retain people that have the competency that will drive success in your business. In my mind, there are 7 key elements to ensuring that you're able to implement a really strong people strategy that supports your organizational strategy. So the first element is organizational design and structure. Who's accountable for what? And so when we look at organizational design, we look at roles, we look at accountability, we look at structure, we look at reporting structures, decision-making structures, level of accountability, authority. So making sure that you have the right organizational design and structure to further your progress towards your vision is really critical. And HR plays a key role in helping you with that. We also look at workforce planning. So people, skills, and efficiencies. Number of people, specific roles, special skills. How do people work together? Do we have the right talent on board? The third element is leadership capability and alignment. So are your leaders aligned? Do you have the tools, structure, support in place to help your leaders be successful? Do your leaders have access to information? Do they have the authority and accountability for making decisions that support their people? We also look at training, so closing skill gaps. So how do we get person A to develop skill in certain areas. So, and understanding the company's purpose, vision, and values, systems, and processes, and making sure that if you've got rock stars in your team, that you're engaging them in thoughtful training and development that furthers your organizational agenda and also gives those people something that they're craving. We also look at compensation and total rewards. So this is super critical. Are you rewarding the right behaviors? Are you paying to attract the industry's best? Are you incentivizing through short-term and long-term incentives outcomes that are favorable for your organization? Are you compensating in a way and providing supports like benefits and RSP contributions that allow employees to show up 100% focused? Because we know if there's an employee in your organization that is under financial distress in some way, shape, or form, they are going to be distracted at work. And I'm not saying that you need to pay everybody's bills, but maybe there's opportunity there for you to help people focus in a way their financial health in a way that they focus their physical and mental health. The other element is risk mitigation. So are you building systems and structures that mitigate risk long-term for your organization? This includes succession planning, compliance management, so making sure your policies and your contracts are up to date. Legislation is constantly changing, and we do get new court rulings out of the court systems across Canada that impact and influence our ability to engage with our employees. So making sure that you're staying on top of that. Leave management. So when people go on some sort of long-term leave, whether it be medical leave or critical care leave, are those leaves being managed appropriately so you can return the person safely to work? Legislative changes, I already talked about those. And then employee relations issues. If you've got small little fires burning in your organization, you need to get on those and put them out quickly so that they don't get in the way of your progress toward achieving your vision, and so that people are happy at the end of the day. And then culture. Define your no-fly zones and protect what you've built and make sure that you understand what you need in terms of culture. So if you need a culture where people are empowered to make decisions and build good judgment with respect to how they behave inside the business, then all your systems and structures need to promote that ability to make decisions and make good judgment calls. If you need a culture where everybody just follows the rules, then you need to build systems and structures that help employees just follow the rules. So your people strategy needs to match your business plan, and your HR team should be strategically equipped to help engineer the future for you. How and why is HR involved in strategy? So strategy fails without a people plan. Every strategic priority, whether it's growth, expansion, efficiency, innovation, service improvement, requires good people, capability, structure, and culture to execute. HR owns the systems that enables those outcomes. Now, we're seeing a lot of organizations foregoing their use of talented HR help, and they're using ChatGPT or other AI tools to augment these structures. And I'm a big fan of that. I love technology. I love those changes. But I have to say that we have yet to find an AI enabled organization where their AI tools are actually able to manage those human nuances. So make sure that you're treating your people like you like to be treated face to face, and that you maintain that humanistic component to your people management. So what does HR do to help you further your strategy? So strategy fails without a people plan. I already said that. HR provides the operational reality check. I love this one. So leaders often set goals without fully understanding their team's capacity, skills gaps, leadership readiness, cultural strengths and weaknesses, workforce constraints, change tolerance, and then also they build goals without fully understanding whether or not the individuals can actually execute on it, or if there's personal barriers to success. So HR works with leaders to validate whether the plan is executable and helps identify what needs to be built or what needs to be done to help make the strategy real and helps operationalize the strategy. So HR connects strategy to the doing. I love this one too. So HR connects the strategy to the people doing the work. So strategy fails when it stays at the executive level. I've said that already. And HR ensures that that strategy cascades clearly down to the organization, creating communication plans, leader talking points, 90-day priorities, developmental alignment, departmental alignment, scorecards, engagement loops, change management planning. HR makes strategy accessible and actionable for every employee. So we get employees again, I don't know how what I'm doing today really helps the organization achieve their vision. HR can help leaders um, um, help help employees see how their day-to-day activities contribute to the bottom line of the organization. HR is responsible for organizational design. If the structure doesn't match the strategy won't work as well. So, reporting lines, team configuration, spans of control, job design, leadership layers, cross functional workflows. This ensures the business is structurally capable of achieving the plan and helps remove barriers to success. HR builds capability, the capability needed to execute. So, strategy often requires new or enhanced skills or capabilities. And so HR ensures the organization has the right skills, sources the right skills, hires the right talent, provides the right training, helps leaders develop the right competencies, creates succession strength in the organization, creates bench strength in terms of understanding individual capabilities, and helps develop what we call future ready competency or capabilities in the organization. So the strategy tells HR what capabilities must exist. So if you define your 3-year vision, you can have a sense of sort of what sort of behavior, skills, and attributes you need 3 years from now, and then HR can help you close the gap between what you've got today and where you need to be 3 years from now to make your vision a reality. So number 6, HR mitigates risk. I think this is probably one of our most important roles. And so there's immediate, short-term, acute risk, and then there's long-term risk. And so a really good HR strategist is going to be able to um, not completely accurately, it's almost like fortune telling. They're going to be able to say, hey, if we do ABC today, we're probably going to land at D, F, and G. And so it's really about being able to have someone on your team that has the experience and capability to have some, I would say, foresight into what actions today might result in terms of risk, might create in terms of risk for the organization. So, are we going to have talent shortages? Is the employment legislation changing? Do we have misaligned compensation? If we implement raises for everybody, what does that do 3 years down the road? HR can identify poor engagement before it actually becomes an issue. They can see leadership gaps. They can see what we like to call culture drift. So that's where the leadership goes. We're this kind of company. And HR goes, no, no, no. We've got some stuff happening sort of underneath the water. Most of you have probably heard about the iceberg theory of culture, where, the 10% you see above water is the sort of visual culture, and then there's a whole bunch of norms and values that happen underneath the water that maybe we're not aware of. So HR can help identify and manage that culture drift. Of course, HR is good at dealing with employee relations issues and compliance gaps. Um, your HR team should be able to identify all these risks early and help stabilize the people environment so strategy can succeed. HR measures what matters. Execution breaks down without metrics. So HR integrates KPIs for every role, leadership scorecards, performance expectations, engagement surveys, people analytics. They measure turnover, absenteeism, hiring, productivity metrics. These data points will allow leaders to track whether the strategy is working, and it'll also help you with that culture drift piece. That if your culture drift is impacting turnover, then very quickly we can help you pivot and move back into a place where you're stabilized and able to move back into achieving your vision. So HR drives culture, and culture enables strategy, values, behaviors, communication, accountability, and leadership consistency determine whether your strategy will thrive or die. So HR ensures that culture aligns with the business direction. And culture comes from policies, it comes from your employment contracts, it comes from how you onboard employees and how you offboard employees and how you talk to employees, how you engage them in decisions. And so if you're trying to achieve something big, some big, hairy, audacious goal, then you need to have the kind of culture that allows for that to happen. Culture, we've all heard this, culture eats strategy for breakfast unless HR is involved. And then maybe you've got a fighting chance. Feels like I'm pumping up my own tires here. So let's talk a little bit about tools. So we use practical tools to keep strategy simple and visible. And I'm going to talk a little bit about my favorite tools, but one of my favorites is the one-page strategic plan. I like accountability charts. They're a little bit sort of outside of the box. Scorecards, feedback loops, compensation philosophies, communication templates, and I like the 90-day goal or ROC framework that comes with EOS. There's a lot of options out there to support your strategic planning, and it can be overwhelming. I'm only going to share my favorites with you. And if you have favorites, I encourage you to share the link or information in the chats as we move along. My feeling is that I've read a lot of books, and I think you may be able to see them on my back shelf here. So a couple of my favorites are, Scaling Up, which is sort of a modern version of the Rockefeller habits. I like EOS as well. And I think all of these models bring something valuable to the table, but really it's up to you as a strategist to educate yourself and then decide which elements of each of those strategies works best for you. The strategy frameworks works best for you, and then put together your own strategy framework. So we do a ton of strategic planning with our clients, mostly on the people strategy side. I particularly have done a lot of work around purpose, vision, values, and I've also facilitated a lot of strategic planning sessions. And so I have my favorites that I go to all the time, and I usually bring them into my client spaces. And if you're interested in knowing a little bit more about that, I'm happy to talk to you about it at any time. So here's my favorite tools that are designed to help businesses distill your strategy into a simple, digestible document, ensuring clarity, alignment, and accountability across the entire organization. My favorite one is the one-page strategy summary. So it comes from Vern Harnish's Rockefeller Habits and Scaling Up. So you can easily look it up. It's a little bit of a complicated document. I've done a lot of work around distilling that so that it works for me, and I'm happy to share in the Q&A section a picture of what I like to use. I'm a visual learner, so it helps me sort of see where we're going and stuff like that. So Jim Collins coined the term big, hairy, audacious goals, the BHAG, which is a key component of the one-page strategic plan framework. And the BHAG is intended to be like who are you trying to be? What is your big vision? It should be a stretch goal. It should feel a little uncomfortable. You should go, I'm not sure if I can achieve that. Mark and Ellen wrote a book titled The One-Page Business Strategy, which utilizes the OGSM, the Objective Goals Strategies Measures method, widely used at Procter & Gamble. That's also a very cool tool. So I like that. The other tool I like, and have forced myself to like this a little bit because I'm an HR person, so I tend to like traditional org structures, but the traditional org structure shows who reports to whom, and an accountability chart maps out the necessary seats or functions in a company. So, and assigns an individual accountable for each one of the functions. So it answers that question, who is responsible for what? So in an organization like mine, I would have business development, marketing, accounting, HR services, recruitment. And I might sit in 3 or 4 of those seats myself. Another team member on my team might sit in 2 or 3 of those seats. So you can kind of see when you build an accountability org chart, who sits where and how much capacity you need on your team. Now, the tricky thing about that is you usually, in an accountability chart, in a small, growing, medium-sized business, see one person sitting in multiple seats. And I think it's really important to hone in on that a bit as you're scaling and recognize that at some point, that person is not going to be able to do all those things. So, this is where we get into workforce planning and making sure that on an annual basis you're checking in on those people that have multiple functions, making sure you're not burning them out. Okay. The third thing is the annual and quarterly priorities or rocks. Okay, so I really like this flow down structure where you set some achievable goals on an annual basis and then you break those into bite-sized pieces that you can check in on a quarterly basis, and you can assign tasks that help move you towards achieving those goals. So at Synergy, we go as far as defining a vision of the future, which is 3 years out, including metrics. And then on an annual basis, we run a strategy session and ask ourselves, what do we need to do this year to get closer to our 3-year goal? Then on a quarterly basis, we break this into bite-sized tasks that we can measure that help us achieve our annual objectives. So the best example of this I have is, many of you know that I have a daughter who is an Olympic bronze medalist. She's going to the next Olympics here in February. When she was 14 years old, she decided that she wanted to be an Olympian and that she wanted to be an Olympic gold medalist. So we'll see if that happens this February. But it changed the way she makes decisions on an annual basis and on a quarterly basis and even on a daily basis when it comes to what she eats, how she fuels her body, and how she trains. So when you look at an athlete paradigm, you can see clearly these massive, big, hairy, audacious goals and how athletes work towards achieving those goals over a longer period of time. So that's a great formula for success. I think athletes demonstrate that really well. The other thing I really like, and I like these, but I also think they're a lot of work, are scorecards. So they're a tool you can use to track progress against goals. You can have organizational scorecards and you can have role specific scorecards. Dashboards are great, and financial statements are great scorecards if you're tracking budgeted to actual. Those are really great examples of scorecards. If you have a larger organization and you don't have a practice of building scorecards, it can be a lot of work to catch up on that. And so we do a lot of work with companies to help them build KPIs for specific roles, particularly around CEOs and C-suite level roles where their STIP, short-term incentive plan, or their long-term incentive plan might be tied directly to achieving certain milestones. The other thing I love a good meeting. I don't love a not so good meeting. So it's important to consistently follow up with your team. So typically an organization will have a big strategic planning session, 2 months before their new fiscal year. They'll set priorities and walk away assuming everyone present gets it. Sometimes this works and you need a supercharged leadership team to make this happen without regular follow-up. But the best practice is to have a great annual strategy session and invite key leaders to this strategy session, the people that are going to be responsible for execution, and then set a regular rhythm of quarterly follow-ups and possibly weekly meetings. So EOS calls these weekly meetings your L10, so your level 10 meeting. And specifically ask in these meetings, have you completed this task or are you achieving this target? And if not, why not? Not in a mean way, but in a way that says we're measuring what matters most in our business. And then if people aren't achieving their objectives, get curious about why and remove obstacles and barriers. So one really simple example is, let's go back to that goal that I talked about before. Send out 500 cold emails on a Tuesday. If your system isn't set up to make that happen, the system itself might be a barrier to achieving that goal. And that might be a really easy fix. Okay, so get curious about why people are not able to achieve the tasks or finish the tasks or achieve the targets that that are set. So let's simplify this a little bit and let's take a look at, one last thing I should talk about are the motivational tools. And so this is the big HR component here, is making sure that you have the compensation, incentives, rewards, and recognition to basically hang that proverbial carrot in front of your team and get them moving forward properly. Okay. And then let's take a look at this very simplified framework. Remember, I told you all I'm a visual learner. So of course I had to create a little bit of an infographic. It's not beautiful, but as a one-page document, it would really, if you have to print something, I will send out a video copy of this presentation. But if you want this slide specifically, send me an email and I'll send it to you. This is my visual depiction of a really simple strategy framework. Okay, so the first stage is look at your current state. What is happening today? What is the state of the economy? Where are we winning and losing? What are our strengths and weaknesses? I'm just looking this way so I can look at the slide. The second step is, what's the future state? What do we see on the horizon? What are the new trends? What should we consider? What should we be doing? Are there new products we should be developing? How do we integrate AI? Because it's going to become part of our business DNA in Canada. And then the third step is, what are our priorities for this year? Set your strategic priorities. What really matters? What do we need to lean into? And are these priorities aligned with our purpose, vision, and values? Stay away from the shiny, squirrely type things that get you excited, and stay focused on your purpose and vision and values. Okay. And then number 4, our goals. What are they? What are we chasing? What are the specific goals around our vision? What do we need to achieve this year, and how do we quantify this? Number 5, looking at, I just went ahead. I wonder if it'll let me, there we go. KPIs. What does success look like and how do we measure it? Super important. Now, do not overwhelm yourself with a dashboard full of KPIs that do not tell a story. Measure what matters. What's measured gets managed. And I believe that to an extent. Don't measure everything. Stick to 3 to 5 really, really great measures that tell a story about your success. And then the last part is set quarterly actions. So these are the rocks, the tasks, who's doing what, by when, how will they know it's completed, how are you going to measure success? This is your basic framework for building strategy. And then, of course, you need to make sure there's great communication rhythm supporting that. And then finally, you need to make sure that you have a really great people, systems, and structure. That's your people strategy supporting that as well, because your people are going to execute and create success in your business. Not some AI tool. That might make you be more efficient. It might save time and money for you, but it's the people that are going to execute and create success for you. Okay, I like to stick to my rule of 3s, but it didn't happen in this case. We're going to look at 7 things you can do tomorrow that will help you supercharge your team. Okay, so first, book your 2026 strategy session. So it's typically a good idea to do this 1 to 2 months before your fiscal year end. But the best thing to do is just get this in your calendar today. If you haven't done it, then book it. And if you're a solopreneur and you're doing your own thing, then just take half a day, block it off, go to a coffee shop, write your strategy down on a napkin, whatever you need to do. In fact, get one step ahead of yourself and book your 2027 strategy session while you're at it. So I typically do strategy in November. And so I need to go, and I did it, but it was in my calendar a long, long time ago. Now I'm going to go book my 2027 strategy session. I'm going to book an entire day off in November of 2026 so that I can get ready for 2027. Okay. The next thing you do is just refine your purpose, vision, and values. Just take a look at them. It takes 15 minutes. Ask yourself, is this still where I'm going? What has changed? Do I need to tweak my vision? Your purpose statement should stay solid and Very rarely does a purpose statement change. The reason why you exist is the reason why you exist, but where you're going might change based on what you've learned over this past year. And then do a litmus test on your values. Do they still stick? Are they meaningful? Is there another value you need to add to your paradigm? So back in, I think, the turn of the century, that makes me sound old, but yes, I was around at the turn of the century. Safety used to be a value that was on every big organization's billboard. Safety has now become a norm, and it's been incorporated into legislation. So you see very few companies that have safety as a core value because it's just absolutely necessary and they don't have to promote it anymore. It is what it is. Number three, identify your top three priorities. Okay. What are you going to work on this year that's really, really important to you? So, one of my top three priorities for 2026 is to really flesh out and support this referral partner network that I've developed. Number four, identify three ways to measure success. What are three ways, three KPIs that are going to tell you you're moving in the right direction? Okay. This is number five. Identify a, a weekly meeting rhythm or a bi-weekly rhythm or a quarterly rhythm. This is super hard, and it's really easy to let operational priorities get in the way of you holding your meetings. And what you have to redefine is your perspective on this. And you need to understand that these meetings are about the long-term success of your company, not just day-to-day activities. It's okay to carve out a little bit of time in these meetings to say, okay, what are the priorities for this week? But really, really focus on moving forward towards a long-term vision in these meetings. They don't need to be long meetings, but they have to be nice, tight, well-defined meetings with a really solid agenda that specifically address progress on priorities and reports on measurements, KPIs. This meeting is intended to ensure that your team is on the same path and moving in the same direction. Okay. Communicate with your team. So cascade the plan to your team. Engage your team. As soon as you've got those top three priorities, start talking about them in your meetings. They don't have to help you make decisions. Your team doesn't have to, but they do need to feel like they are invested and they know where they're going. Invite them into the discussion early and ask them their opinions and empower them to speak up. And then finally, audit your people systems. Make sure you've got the structure that supports your leaders and your people. So engage your HR team early and align people and strategy from the start. I gave you a lot of stuff today. I think we're going to leave it there. We are really good at helping companies build not just people strategies, but really good business strategy. So if you're planning your 2026 strategy session, depending on when your fiscal year is, or your 2027 strategy session, and you need help, do not hesitate to reach out, because if we can't help you, we probably know someone that can. We support full strategy facilitation. I like to use the one-page model. Some of my team members have other models that they like to implement, but we work with developing business strategy. We also develop people strategy and integrate that into your business strategy. We do organizational design, leadership alignment, you name it, we can help you with it. So do not hesitate to reach out. We're going to move into the questions and comments section, and hopefully if you've got some tools that you'd like to share, you've popped them into the chat. I'm going to turn off the presentation here in a minute, and we'll just free flow some questions. All right.